So welcome to this episode of the CGU Learning Center. I thought it might be fun to do another episode that involves pets. And for that, we have our friend Yuki, who is very much a bird enthusiast and has 3 birds that she takes awesome care of. And I thought it might be fun to learn about what it's like to have a bird for a pet and what kind of care goes into that. So welcome, Yuki, and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me. So I'm an exotic veterinarian technician, which means that I work with all of the feathered and scaled friends that live in Maine. I'm also one of the volunteers at the local parrot sanctuary, Seymours Pet Bird Refuge.
So you really know a lot about birds. You do it not just for fun, but you do it kind of professionally too.
Yep, that's my whole shtick. I have the 3 that I currently have right now. This is Siegfried, my linealated parakeet. This is Basil, my normal phase green sheet conure. And this is Tula, my cinnamon green sheet conure.
Aw.
So birds, you can get them at Petco. They're very easy to find and they take a lot of work.
Yeah, so it's taking care of a bird's different than taking care of like a dog or a cat, right?
Yes, it is a big life change having a bird. So birds have an intelligence that is unmatched as far as pets you can get.
Wow.
Birds have the intelligence, larger birds have the intelligence up to an 8-year-old human being. They're also the only animal in the world to have ever asked an existential question.
What question?
It was Alex, the African gray parrot, who was one of the pioneers on parrot intelligence, asked the question, "What color am I?"
Aw.
Which was doubly proved. It proved his ability to ask an existential question, and it also proved his ability to formulate sentences using pre-existing knowledge.
I did not know that. That's impressive.
Yes, so birds have been proven to be self-aware, but that also means that when you get a bird, you're basically getting a child. And most people don't realize,
Oh.
As you can see, Siegfried is my youngest. We got him during the pandemic. From a
Still trying to figure things out.
Yeah, he's still learning how to figure things out. I got him from a trauma nurse in New Jersey, who took very good care of him. And so basically the other thing to think about is, speaking of younger birds, birds are wild animals. With cats and dogs, we have domesticated them for thousands of years, and birds, the illegal importation of birds only stopped in the 80s, meaning that there are birds that are still alive, that are still even my patients. I have birds that are wild caught.
Oh, wow.
Because birds have an incredibly long life expectancy. That little glass jar, glass tank that you see in Petco with the budgies inside, the little parakeets, those can live up to 20 to 30 years.
Wow, so birds really do live a long time.
The longest recorded bird life expectancy was a sulfur-crested cockatoo that lived to be 120.
That's old. Holy.
Really does refocus. So the birds I have here will all live to be anywhere from 30 to 40 years old. The bird that is not shown is my Major Mitchell's cockatoo, Pink Floyd, who is jointly owned by me and my parents because he is a year old, and he will live to be upwards of 80 years old.
Wow.
So
you're definitely going to outlive your parents.
So we are joint parenting him so that, one day when my parents can no longer take care of him, I will. And that's one of the things that we see in the shelter world is we get a lot of birds who have had very good lives, but their owners never planned for what would happen at the end, where they will, greatly outlive their owners, and there is no end of life plan. And that's something that most bird owners don't want to think about. Nobody wants to think about dying, but it's something that really needs to be considered when you have a bird. I have a living will, and I'm very lucky. My family is all bird crazy. My parents started rescuing birds when they were dating, so I've grown up with them. My brother has 3 birds. There was never a question of, finding someone willing to take care of my birds. And most people also don't know you can will your birds to a shelter. Seymours Bird Refuge does allow people to will their birds to be sent to a to be sent to them, or to, you know, you can also reach out to other shelters. That way you know where your bird is going, and your family members aren't left trying to figure out how to take care of them, because birds are very high maintenance. There's huge lifestyle changes you have to make when you have a bird. One of the biggest is birds have very different respiratory systems than humans. They have 5 air sacs, so when they inhale, they don't immediately exhale the air that they've just inhaled. It goes through their air sacs before exhaling, meaning any toxins in the air are going to sit in your bird and can prove fatal.
Oh, wow.
So one of the big things we say is you can never use nonstick pans. They contain Teflon, which is released into the air, and that'll kill your bird very quickly.
I never knew any of that. I kind of knew about the extra air sacs. That's what helps them fly, correct?
Yeah. Yes, it is what fly.
But I didn't realize how it was that sensitive.
We actually just had to release, Arm & Hammer just released a carpet cleaning product that has been killing birds like crazy. A woman just reached out to us because 7 of her birds died immediately upon her trying to just clean her carpets in her basement. Her birds were in the 2nd floor, and the fumes from that were toxic enough that it killed them immediately.
And in all fairness, some of those carpet cleaners are extremely pungent.
Yeah.
The scent will bother humans. So yeah, that's actually not that much of a stretch when you think about it.
So, I mean, it is a lifestyle change. I don't use any harsh chemicals in any of my cleaners. I use bird safe vet approved cleaners for my house. 7th Generation is a great brand for that. You can also use old fashioned. Nothing cleans better than old fashioned cleaning vinegar. Comes with quite a scent, but it's very cheap and easy to come by.
So I noticed as we're talking, your feathery friends are a bit free range. Do they actually have a cage that they sleep in?
They do. And the other thing is most people get way too small of a enclosure for a bird. The biggest cage you can buy, there's one at Petco, I think, that may be an appropriate size for one of these guys. But these guys need a 26 by 26 by 26 inch cage, which is quite large, and none of them are housed together. Introducing a bird to another bird is not very easy. A lot of the times they don't get along, as my birds will all get along with each other. Obviously they can still sit on me, but if I tried to put them together, I would end up with one dead bird at least.
Ooh, that's pretty rough.
And it's usually this one's fault. This is Basil, my more dominant one. She likes to bully everyone. She pulls on people's feathers when they aren't looking.
Oh, jeez. Basil's not nice.
Well, Basil is also what I call my most expensive free bird, because if you ever go on Craigslist, you'll know that there is a lot of free birds because people get them and then realize that they're loud, they're destructive, and they poop a lot. Birds actually have a cloaca, and they don't have the anal muscles necessary to hold in feces.
So you gotta go.
And my birds are potty trained in that if I tell them, go poop, and I hold them over a trash can, they'll do it. But you have to kind of like keep them on a schedule. Like I know every 15 to 10 minutes, they have to go. So, you just got to keep that in mind. And birds, when they're startled, have a natural defense mechanism where they will poop because it lightens them so they can fly away faster from a predator. So, for me, what I've been dealing with is our neighbors are building a garage. So there's loud noises everywhere. So my house is kind of a mess. But Basil is my most expensive free bird because she was found outside my house, frozen solid.
Oh, little birdie sickle?
A little birdie sickle. Someone had, and we find this a lot, especially in the summertime, which is when I think roughly she was released, is people will release them into the wild with the knowledge that they won't survive the winter.
So just releasing your pet into the wild is never a good idea in general.
No, and they are tropical animals. They will not survive. Basil, I think I spent up to $3,000 in the first 2 weeks of owning her, specifically to treat all of the conditions that she had from being frozen solid. Oh. Her heart actually stopped twice in the first night I had her. Very luckily, I'm one of the few people that also knows parrot CPR.
That is definitely very fortunate. And I guess I had to think about pet first aid. I'd heard some things like there's a way to, like if your dog, your cat's choking, how to clear that. And I think I'd heard something about dog CPR. I guess it just never crossed my head with other animals, but definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and birds are different because they have all of their muscles, and especially their flight muscles, are anchored to one very large bone that goes down the center of their abdomen called their keel. And in order to do palpitations, you actually have to break that because it's what's anchoring everything. It's like a little cave where everything is kind of stored inside underneath.
Wow.
But Basil is now luckily doing fine. She is very healthy, and we're going on several years now of her being in my care, and she is a very nice, very anxious little bird. And that's the other thing is birds are the most emotionally intelligent pets you can ever have.
So I wanted to ask, what do you feed your birds?
That's actually a point that we actually have to educate a lot of our clients on is if you ask most people, what do birds eat? The answer is seeds. And we call that the slow killer in the vet world.
Really?
When you think about what do you cook with? You cook with sunflower oil, peanut oil. High fat in birds doesn't get processed in, I mean, it does get processed into fat, but it can cause what's called fatty granulomas, which are fatty tumors. It can also cause fatty liver disease. And it is the greatest way to shorten your bird's lifespan because it's basically the equivalent of feeding them McDonald's every day.
Okay.
Parrots should be on an 80% of their diet should be a high quality parrot pellet. Great brands include Rowdy Bush, Zupreme, Higgins, Tops. And then the rest should be bird safe fruits and vegetables. Vegetables to avoid are, biggest one is avocados. Avocados, if you have some on your hand, anything, like do not go near your bird. Avocados, there's a toxin in them they can't process and it'll kill them very quickly. You can also go on the Lefever's pet food website and they have a list of bird safe foods you can feed your bird. But they really like fruits and veggies. And it depends on the birds. My two green-cheeked conures are huge corn fans and huge fruit fans. My linealated parakeet is a big spinach fan as well as collard greens.
So it's almost a shame you didn't call him Popeye.
Yeah. Yep. And the other thing is actually most exotic pets, especially in Maine, need a UVB light, which is a full spectrum light. In birds, it helps them digest calcium, which they need in their diet, and they can't process it without UVB light. And in Maine, we do not get a lot of sun, especially in the winter.
Right? Yeah.
So if you have reptiles, if you have guinea pigs, if you have birds, most of them need full spectrum light to digest calcium. So I have my birds, it's very easy. I got a full spectrum light that I have on a timer, so I don't even have to worry about turning it on and off.
Nice.
But again, that's a huge, I have to remember every 6 months the UVB light will run out of UVB even if the bulb itself doesn't dull, and I have to remember to replace that. And then with birds, it's funny because with cats and dogs, there are a lot of vaccines that you'll end up spending money on. With birds, it's toys and enrichment because
they get bored easy.
Yes, and they need a lot of variety. Even if they haven't destroyed the toy completely, I try to rotate my toys at least once to twice every week or two. And that's also, they have toys in their cage. They have toys on their play stands. They have toys on the floor that they can play with. And it's just, again, they're such a smart, intelligent animal, and they need a variety of textures of toys. So I have plastic, I have cardboard, I have wood. So various different textures to also help wear down their beak and their nails.
So just to recap a little bit what we've talked about. So birds are very smart. They are challenging to take care of, and that a lot of things can harm them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just feed them seeds, feed them fruits and veggies.
Mm-hmm.
They need some open air playtime.
Yep.
And you need to have a cage that's big enough. Don't just buy the stereotypical like parakeet type cage.
Yeah.
And make sure you have plenty of toys because they are smart and they get bored easy. Is that about right so far?
Yep. And then I guess I'll go into why then would you want a bird? They sound like a lot of work. They are incredibly emotionally intelligent, but that also means they're incredibly emotionally intelligent with you. We've had birds. I had a bird that was surrendered to the shelter that was completely bare. He had ripped out all of his feathers because his owner was going through chemo. And when she lost her hair, he ripped out his feathers so that, they looked the same.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Birds we've had birds that, one of our older shelter birds, we had a budgie come in who unfortunately wasn't going to make it. So, we make them comfortable, and she sat there and sang lullabies to this bird until he passed away. And when she did, she came over to us and went, bye-bye. And we knew.
Wow.
I mean, you're getting a child, but you're also getting something that is that bonded with you. Like, I feel so great because birds, they don't have to like you. With dogs and cats, they can eventually warm up to you. Birds can hate you for your entire life, no matter what you do for them. So we have people come into our shelter who want to adopt, they'll say, I want that bird. And we're like, no, that's not how it works. The bird chooses you. You don't choose the bird. Like when I went to get Tula, I got Tula from the shelter. I was actually thinking of getting a completely different bird. I was like, yeah, I definitely am looking for, a Pacific parrotlet. And luckily the shelter owner knows me and, knew me well enough to know my personality. He's like, no, I have a bird that I think would be a better fit for you. And she was completely right. I mean, Tula was the perfect fit, absolutely fit my personality, became incredibly bonded with me, and really has been a stellar bird since. So it's, I would definitely recommend, if you're considering a bird, first do research into what you can afford. Probably spend $100 to $200 a month on, I have to buy them berries and fruit and toys and not seeds, and supplements. There you go. That's the word I meant. Like
Supplements.
Supplements. One of them's on a multivitamin supplement. And that's the reason I don't have more birds or bigger birds, is I know that that's where my budget is. So consider the cost, and then consider what kind of personality you want. African greys are great talkers. They're one of the most intelligent bird species, but they're a ground-dwelling bird and very nervous because of it. They're very nervous, and they're not as snuggly as, let's say, a green cheek conure, which if I could wear Tula in my pocket like 90% of the time, she would be the happiest bird in the world.
Really loves mommy.
Yes, loves mommy, loves snuggles. If she could just be on people like all day, it would be heaven. So it's figuring out what kind of bird you think, and then going and meeting a bird. For us at the shelter, especially with our larger birds, we won't just give you the bird. You have to meet several times with this bird over a period of several weeks to make sure that there is a true trust bond there between the bird and the owner before we will let them adopt. And it's also a great way to weed out people. If you're not willing to take that time to come and meet with a bird over several weeks, then you're not
right
really,
for you.
Yeah. The other thing is, make sure with every animal you have, they need a yearly wellness exam. And I have people who will tell me, oh, no, they're fine. And birds and most exotic animals are prey animals, which means they will hide an illness until they are physically unable to do so.
Wow.
So if your bird is showing any symptoms that something might be wrong, that means that it's gotten to the point where it is so bad that your bird can't hide it. So unfortunately, usually when I get a bird in, unless it's, a routine wellness exam, if they say something's wrong with my bird, it's unfortunately a lot of the times, I would say about 50% of the time, it's a life-threatening condition.
Oh, that's rough.
And it's true with bunnies, it's true with guinea pigs. Oh, quit being angry. It's true with any prey animal that they will hide their illnesses, which is why it's so important to have a yearly exam, that we can catch anything that might, like with Basil, she had a vitamin A deficiency. Even though I was giving her plenty of, vitamin A rich foods, she just wasn't absorbing it well enough, which is why she's on a multivitamin supplement, and it caused her to form the beginnings of a scissor beak, which is when the top and bottom jaws don't line up.
Yeah.
And luckily my vet caught it, and suggested treatment options, and we've been treating her for over a year now, and it's mostly resolved. But
Good.
if my hadn't said, wait a minute, this doesn't look right, I wouldn't have caught it. So always a yearly wellness exam, and I don't care if you bought this budgie off of Petco and it was $15 and the exam is $60. That's the responsibility you took when you agreed to take on a living creature.
So what are your top 3 misconceptions about birds that be cleared up?
Birds are not starter pets.
Okay.
They are an exotic pet for a reason, which means they require an exotic level of care. Birds need to be on a seed diet. They do not put them on seeds. The amount of people I have to tell at my job to stop feeding their birds seeds, who are and they're usually well-intentioned people who just don't know any better.
Okay.
Because it's so much harder. Once you've been feeding someone McDonald's for a year, it's really hard to try to get them to eat salad. It's so much work.
True.
That birds aren't handleable, that they're, a pet. I had several people, when they hear I have birds, I don't think I would want a bird. I want something you can hug and snuggle and, play with. I'm like, I literally spend 90% of my day with a bird attached to my face, because that's what Tula loves to do. She'll snuggle up right next to my face and she'll put out her little claw and we'll hold hands.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah, birds are so affectionate, especially because they're not domesticated. When a bird forms a bond with you, it's both a flock bond and usually a mate bond. And it just means that they've chosen you and they really like you. So they're going to go out of their way to show affection. And then the other is, you may get a bird. Birds don't usually settle into their home until about a year after you have them. So a lot of people will give up after having a bird for a few months because they're not relaxed, they're not settled, they're not playful, and it's give them time. If you took a 5-year-old human and threw them into some unknown place with a bunch of strangers, you wouldn't expect them to be okay in a few months.
Right. That's very valid.
So give your bird time to settle. Don't try to immediately go at it and get in its face. Give it time to adapt. And I've had birds that I do rehab at the shelter. I primarily try to work with birds with anxiety disorders, which is what Tula came into the shelter with. And I work with birds with PTSD, which are things that birds can get, by the way.
Well, if they've got the intelligence of a 8-year-old?
Yep.
Yeah, I would think that they would be just as susceptible to trauma and PTSD as an 8-year-old would be.
Yeah. And I had one of my favorite birds who I actually cried when he got adopted. I was very upset. Was at the shelter for almost 2 years before, and when he got to the shelter, he didn't want anything to do with us. We didn't think he was going to be a handleable bird. We didn't think he was going to be a bird that was going to be overly affectionate with humans. And I worked with him for almost 2 years. And one day he leaned his head down and was like, do you really want me to pet you? And so, because I'd been bitten by him before, and you just kind of accept when you have a bird, it's not if you're going to get bitten by them, it's when, they don't have paws to bat you away with or anything. They have wings, so their only, defense mechanism is their beak. So I reached in and I started scritching him, and he just fluffed up and let me, and it was from that point on, he was the most, we couldn't believe the change. He was the most affectionate bird. He would literally run off of his cage and run around and follow you around the store and follow you around the shelter area, begging for pets and was just so affectionate, and I'm so glad he went to a great home. This one is the same. He actually hates pets. Like, he doesn't want to be touched. Actually, I think he'll demonstrate it. Yeah, he's like, please stop touching me. Oh, the finger's getting too close. I'm going to be angry. But literally, if he can't see me, he will follow me around the house and try and find me and like start calling, Mom, 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 running around the house, wondering where I am.
See, that almost sounds like cat behavior. It's like, I want affection, but I want it on my terms, and you don't get to dictate those terms.
Well, and for birds, like, they don't quite get what hands are. Once they realize they're like scritch machines, you know, it's fine. But I mean, they have wings, so for them, hands are a very foreign concept. So it can sometimes take them a while to understand what those are, and you know, a lot of it is working with them on their terms. I've only had Siegfried since July. Yeah, is it July? Hi. This is also, he's talking.
Aw.
Hi. And of course, it's always as soon as I get on the phone, he'll start like chatting up a storm. Well, he'll be completely quiet until I have to start talking with someone.
So, as kind of a final thing, as a vet tech, what just general taking care of your pet advice do you have for us?
Think something's wrong, don't wait. Go and call your veterinarian. My vet clinic has 2 walk-in facilities, which means that there's no appointment required. Think of it like an urgent care for humans.
Okay.
Got Freeport and one in South Portland. The South Portland one is closed right now because COVID, staffing shortages, all of that stuff.
Right.
But there's always an emergency clinic, or you can schedule an appointment with your, regular veterinarian, but don't wait. Because if your animal is showing you something's wrong, it means something's wrong. I'd much rather have someone come in for what they think is nothing and have it be nothing than have someone come in and it be the last time they get to see their pet.
Yeah, because that's definitely not good.
Always keep up with your yearly wellness exams, because there may be things that you don't know about, either husbandry-wise that you're doing wrong, or there may be things on your pet that you may miss.
So as a kind of a final wrap-up question here, if someone wants more information about having a bird as a pet or the kind of care that goes into birds, where are some good resources they can find this information?
The group Parrots on Facebook is a local, well, not local because it's on the internet, but it's a accessible community of bird owners that are very eager to give out information to prospective owners. Locally, you can contact, there are 2 avian veterinarians in the area. I'm not sure about up north, unfortunately, since I don't work up there, but Yarmouth Veterinary Center has an exotic vet that will treat birds. Veterinary Hospital of South Gorham has a veterinarian that will treat birds, and my practice, Forest Avenue Veterinary Hospital, also has an exotic veterinarian that will treat birds, and they're happy, more than happy, to send out information to people. You can also contact, although again with COVID everything's up in the air, Seymours Bird Refuge for more information. And if you're not from Maine, you can always contact your local parrot shelter.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for introducing us to your lovely little feathered friends, and for definitely giving us all of that awesome information about birds. I definitely learned a lot of stuff I did not realize, so it's probably a good thing I don't own a bird. Well, I don't own a bird with the cats anyway, so.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, you've learned a little bit more about birds from our lovely friend Yuki, and we'll post the resources at the end, so if you want more information about birds, or you've been thinking about getting a bird yourself, now you have a better idea of what goes into the care and keeping your bird happy and healthy. So, thanks for joining us on this episode of the CGU Learning Center. We'll see you next time.